Greetings, informed citizens. This is Justin. It's October 22nd, Wednesday, and here's the news I thought you needed to know. Starting with government news on Tuesday, the Federal Reserve offered up to $540 billion to help money market mutual funds in response to the credit crunch, which has seen bank lending and debt markets dry up amid fears of financial meltdown. Under this program, the Fed offered the money to back a private sector initiative to buy highly rated short-term debt instruments, including certificates of deposit and commercial paper, from money market investors. Now, to put this into basic, and this is what I got from Wikipedia. The money market consists of financial institutions and dealers in money or credit who wish to either borrow or lend. Participants borrow and lend for short periods of time, typically up to 13 months. Now, this money market trades in short-term financial instruments called paper. This contrasts with the capital market for longer-term funding, which is basically supplied by bonds and equities. So this is a short-term market for commercial paper, so it's commercial debt. So here's where the problem comes into play. The people willing to buy this paper or debt from those businesses have just stopped purchasing the paper altogether. They've just stopped buying the debt that these businesses are issuing. So the businesses are just left there wondering where they're going to get their next paycheck, and they might even start slowing down production or cutting jobs and all this types of different things that could happen from when your funding sources dry up. So the Federal Reserve is trying to restart the process by buying a whole lot of it up so the people issuing the debt don't have to close their business or start laying off people, and in hope that they can bridge the gap between the time that the people that used to buy the debt can come back into the market. So they're really just trying to keep all the businesses afloat until the people that are worried about buying the paper get back in there and start, continuing with business as normal. Now, as you might suspect, there is a problem with that because long-term scenario remains unchanged. Basically, $540 billion was just created out of nothing and is entering the money supply through a different avenue. The Fed's been doing this for a while, pumping in money from various different areas and locations, and it's going to end up becoming a mess. I will be working on a video in the future to try and determine with as much accuracy as I can exactly how much the Federal Reserve has dumped into the system since mid-September, as this is the foundation for the next stage in the crisis. Forget measuring this in terms of billions. We are now well into the trillions. I'll say that again. We are well into the trillions of dollars that has been thrown into this mess. Add some fractional reserve banking on top of that, and the fact that the Federal Reserve will only cut interest rates from this point forward. It does not take a PhD to see what's coming. Anyone with a sound understanding of the fundamental laws that govern economics that could be found in any high school textbook can plainly see what's going to happen. We're going to have record inflation, and this is how the end stage of this whole story is going to play out. Now, moving away from that subject, even though it's probably the most important thing we could be talking about right now, President Bush is inviting leaders from 20 leading economies to come to Washington on November 15th to discuss a coordinated response to the global financial crisis. The formal invitation is for the group of 20 countries, which include the G7 richest industrial countries, plus major emerging economies such as China, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia. Even heads of important multilateral bodies, including the United Nations, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, will also be invited. So, after the upcoming presidential election, we are going to have this incredibly important meeting to determine how the world's economies are going to operate in the future. I can't stress enough how probably historic this will end up being. Moving from the government news to what I'm going to call the bank news, National City Corporation said yesterday it plans to cut 4,000 jobs as the Cleveland-based bank reported a bigger-than-expected loss of $5.15 billion in the third quarter. Bank of America Corporation, the largest U.S. consumer bank, lost money in its credit card unit for the first time since its January 2006 purchase of MBNA Corporation, as more borrowers missed payments amid the slowing economy. Card services, which include unsecured loans, lost $373 million in the third quarter, compared with a profit of $1.04 billion during the same period last year. Citigroup reported its fourth consecutive quarterly loss last week of at least $13.2 billion of credit losses and write-downs. It has also been stated the company may not report a profit until the second half of 2009. Now, saying the best for last, Wachovia posted a $23.9 billion quarterly loss as its portfolio of loans deteriorated and deposits fled the bank, laying bare the serious financial straits the company was in before Wells Fargo announced it would buy it this month. The loss is the largest ever for a bank in history, coming on top of $10 billion in losses earlier this year. It wipes out nearly all of the profits the firm has earned since the merger of the two banks formed a modern Wachovia in 2001. Now moving from the banks over to the U.S. economy, U.S. stock markets tanked today and the Standard & Poor's 500 index dropped to the lowest levels since April of 2003. on concern of a worsening global economic slump will dampen profits. Yeah, I think a global economic slump or depression would dampen profits a little bit. The Dow Jones Industrial is down 514 points today, and since September 15th, which is the day in my mind that I think this whole mess started, that's the day I went to work and told everybody the stock market crashes today, and it did. We've fallen 2,902 points, or a total of 24.41% since that date. So the stock market is going straight down, well, kind of at an angle, but we've lost a quarter of the value in less than, what is it, a month? Now, this next story is probably guaranteed to piss you off. Employees at Moody's Investor Service and Standard & Poor's privately questioned the value of some mortgage-backed securities that were given credit-worthy ratings, saying they had created a monster, according to emails released by the House panel today. Let's hope we are all wealthy and retired by the time this house of cards falters, one email from an S&P employee said. The companies in recent months have downgraded thousands of mortgage-backed securities as delinquencies have soared and home values have fallen off a cliff. Now, in basic terms, these guys had a job, and that job was to give these financial vehicles coming out of these major institutions either a thumbs up or thumbs down. However, they were getting paid to give these things a good rating, so they went ahead and did it anyway. So the investor bought them, and it worked its way deep into the system and eventually exploded. In one document, an S&P employee in the structured finance division wrote, "It could be structured by cows and we would still rate it." Wonderful. Only in America. This next bit of news is from Marky Marcus, one of my longtime subscribers. Thanks, Mark. According to statistics released by the Labor Department, the number of layoff announcements involving at least 50 workers rose in September to the highest levels since the September 11th terrorist attack 7 years ago. There were a total of 2,269 mass layoff events in September, up 497 from August. According to a U.S. Today survey of a dozen of the largest cities in the nation, more families with children are becoming homeless as they face mounting economic pressures, including mortgage foreclosure. Local authorities say the number of families seeking help has risen in Atlanta, Boston, Denver, Minneapolis, New York, Phoenix, Portland, Seattle, and Washington. So, it's getting bad when all these major cities are seeing an increase in the homeless claims amongst their populations. According to a new report, the rate of suicide in the United States is increasing for the first time in a decade, and it's rising most amongst middle-aged white men and women. The new numbers are especially puzzling because other research has found that for the most part, middle age is a time of relative security and emotional well-being. Lenny Berman, executive director of the American Association of Suicidology, said, "We know that unemployment affects suicide rates and that when people feel severe economic strain, suicide rates tend to increase amongst people experiencing that strain." Everyone watching this video knows things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. With the various reports that I have covered in the past, everyone knows we are pretty much due for a very substantial recession/depression, the likes of which many of us have never seen or even contemplated before. So preparing mentally is just as important as stocking up for food or putting money away. You need to prepare your mind for what is to come. Now with that, I would recommend everyone watching this video take some time and check out one of my subscribers' videos. Rocker Chick for God is a mental health professional and has posted some symptoms and solutions to try and kind of help you get through a stressful event and things like that. So if everyone could check out that video, you might be better for it. So that's the news, and you are now informed. Now, if many of you might have noticed already, my channel is taking a different direction. I'm actually moving more towards an actual news format and trying to give you guys the information that I think is important for you. Along with that, I'm trying to build up a group of individuals that might be interested in helping me with this, either other reporters that do similar videos discussing real news events, or even people out there that are very avid readers of internet news articles that can go down and hunt the real news for us so we can report it by submitting us news tips and things like that. So if anybody out there has any want or need to join this little project, feel free to message me. If you want to go ahead and just be a news researcher and submit me news articles that you think are important for America or everybody out there, things that they really need to know, just go ahead and do it, and they'll be announced on here and you'll get credit for it. And that's it. So everybody have a great time. I'm enjoying this a lot. You guys take care. Bye.